interesting articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 5th, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the lead article today comes from CNBC.com. And the headline states BET founder Robert Johnson says voting Democrat gives Black Americans minimal returns. So, in a recent interview, Black entertainment television founder Robert Johnson, so Bob Johnson, doesn't have much faith in a potential Joe Biden presidency. In fact, he doesn't see the Democratic Party as a good choice for African Americans altogether, he told CNBC. I think Black Americans are getting a little bit tired of delivering huge votes for the Democrats and seeing minimal returns in terms of economic wealth and closing the wealth gap, the job creation and job opportunities gap as well. And Joe Biden was not an inspiring candidate for many Black Americans, and some of them stay at home. Some of them voted for Trump as well. So those were, some of Bob Johnson's quotes. He goes on to state, Black people do not embrace Biden as he never articulated a policy that went directly to the concerns of Black Americans. I don't think Biden has that leadership quotient that's going to allow him to do what is critical to bring the economy back due to the trade-off between restoring the economy and fighting the pandemic. All right. So the article then goes on to talk about how Trump has touted low Black unemployment during his term, overseeing the lowest U.S. Black unemployment level in the history before the pandemic, as well as his administration's criminal justice reform policies. Bob Johnson then states, if you can't bring the economy back for everybody, you darn sure can't bring it back for Black Americans, because we're at the bottom of the rung in terms of economic opportunity and economic access to wealth, capital, and also income. Johnson has long argued for more to be done for Black economic mobility, including endorsing reparations for slavery amounting to $14 trillion from the federal government. He also expressed being fed up with what he described as placebo paternalism from white liberals. And he goes on to explain what he believes this is. So what I believe is is that mainstream media and white liberal population in general, the only thing that they address the Black community is what I call placebo paternalism. We will say nice things about you. We will talk about your suffering. We will say that there's racism throughout the land. But when you go to the core issues of what Black Americans really need, that's access to capital, access to wealth, and access to income. They don't actually do that. I saw this, or I thought this was interesting from a quote perspective, a stat perspective in the article. It says that 1 in 3 Black men living in the Midwest voted for Trump this year. That's according to an NBC News poll of early in election day voters. And a recent pre-election poll by Upshot found that the racial gap in presidential preference has shrunk by 16% as Trump makes gains with Black and Hispanic voters also. So I found this article to be very interesting today. Bob Johnson has some strong words for the Democratic Party and the Democratic leadership. Let's see if anything comes out of it. It's still up in the air who the president is going to be today. It's looking like Joe Biden, but we don't know until we actually know. All right. So the next article today comes from Afrotech. Afrotech is written by Vanessa Taylor. It says, Black people drive the culture around tech, and it's time that we start reaping the financial benefits. So it's an undeniable fact that Black people drive popular culture, and tech is no different. There's a stat in here that says, in fact, as of 2018, of these 67 million users on Twitter, 28% were Black, according to Nielsen. And that is in reference to the concept of Black Twitter that is widely popular. Also, the African American podcast audience has skyrocketed 70% from 2014 to 2017, and 73% of African Americans 13 and older play video games, an industry notorious for using Black culture without paying the people who create it. So Vanessa goes on to say, although Black people continue to be one of the main drivers behind the tech industry, we aren't receiving many of its financial benefits. With the tech industry rapidly expanding, many wonder if it may be the key to putting a dent into the ever widening racial wealth gap. So right now, the tech industry is predominantly white and male, as we all know. So about 83% of tech executives are white. And that's according to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Although it seems that every year some big company steps forward with intentions to increase their diversity, not much has changed. Black people may be shaping how tech is used, but that doesn't translate to the makeup of the tech's, or excuse me, of tech's workforce. She states, Vanessa, tech feeding off feeding off of black cool is a parasitic relationship that, or excuse me, with impacts that translate outside of the digital sphere. It goes on to talk about how entrepreneurship is much different in the tech arena. So they talk about tech jobs in terms of employment, but as it relates to entrepreneurship, while entrepreneurship is often touted as a way to defeat the wealth gap, there are big disparities when it comes to startups. The number of Black women founded tech startups has more than doubled since 2016, according to Project Diane. But those who do have a startup, or excuse me, but those who do have a startup are not receiving adequate funding. Since 2009, Black women-led startups have received 0.0006% of the $424 billion in total tech venture funding, the report found out as well. She goes on to end the article by stating, Black people have been the force behind American culture for decades. Our language, music, and way of being have been taken from us without credit and time and time again. The tech industry is no exception, but people can still create space outside of the mainstream to credit and recognize its true entrepreneurs and innovators. And this comes from, once again, this comes from Vanessa. What's Vanessa's last name? Vanessa Taylor. So this actually is an older article. It popped up in my feed today, but this is from early in the year, in March 27th, 2020. I actually kind of disagree with this article a little bit. So I do agree that Black people drive the culture around tech, and it's time for us to start reaping the financial benefits. I don't see a clear path of that happening, via corporate America, though. The tech industry is, of course, in liberal centers, right? Usually like Silicon Valley, Austin, Texas, that type of thing. But at the same time, their rates of Black employment is continuing to be, very minuscule. Like Facebook has 3%, and Twitter has 5%, and then like Google might have 3% too, or something like that, right? So my conclusion is that the tech industry really doesn't need Black people. So in order for us to leverage our culture, it's going to be important for us to build our own, or else it's just, it's just not going to happen in terms of employment and also VC funding as well. But let me know what you think in the comments. You might think something different, and I'm open to and would love to hear the comments that you actually have regarding this subject too. All right, so the next article today comes from The Scanner. So it states applications for Comcast funding of Black businesses now open. So recently, Comcast launched this RISE initiative. It stands for Representation, Investment, Strength, and Empowerment. And RISE aims to boost small BIPOC, which stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color, owned businesses with grants and in-kind resource donations and training over a 3-year period. Those include a media and technology resources program to aid businesses with their marketing and media campaigns, as well as technology makeovers in the form of upgraded hardware, software, and internet services for up to a year, online tutorials, and grants of up to $10,000. Comcast used NBER information to structure its, I can't remember what NBER stands for. I apologize. I'll try to find that again. Oh, National Bureau of Economic Research. So it was quoted a little bit earlier. So they use NBER information to structure its phases of giving, with the first round of applications open to Black business owners, and the next open to other members of the BIPOC community as well. Mark Nugent, who is the Senior Director of Business Development for Comcast Oregon, told The Scanner, "It's personal for me. I have family and friends in the Black community very close to me who are small business owners. I've seen the struggles myself personally. Being able to get your name out there, being able to have the technology you need to run and grow a business, those are critical. Those are things that aren't just a convenience. So, in terms of applications, applications for the quarterly program are assessed by a third party in Philadelphia. Amy Keeter, Director of External Communications for Comcast Oregon, told the scanner. Applications do not need to be Comcast customers, but must operate businesses within Comcast coverage areas. For more information and to apply, visit comcastrise.com/apply. That's comcastrise.com/apply. The next article, the last two articles are actually featured articles related to Black entrepreneurs. So this first couple I actually do know. We're part of a group together. So it states, despite the pandemic, and this comes from blackbusiness.com. Blackbusiness.com wrote, despite the pandemic, this Black couple has doubled their employees and have been featured in Forbes. So Tim and Kim Lewis, founders of CurlMix, have been able to not only double their amount of employees, but also earn themselves a feature in Forbes magazine. The couple was in the national spotlight last year when they famously turned down nearly a $500,000 deal on ABC's Shark Tank. However, their company has been so successful during the pandemic that it is now set to launch a second e-commerce brand. Despite the pandemic, they have managed to add nearly 20 new jobs between their remote work and in-person positions. All of their entry-level positions start at $17 an hour $17 and up, and include full benefits like health, dental, vision insurance, and 401k. This first quote actually comes from Tim. It's short. He says, "We are getting so many new customers, many of whom are shopping online for the first time. We could not keep up. We had to start hiring fast." Kim added, "Our greatest accomplishment is to be able to employ Black people and pay them a living wage and not a minimum wage. We have a staff of nearly 40 people in manufacture here on the west side of Chicago. When my team says they can afford their first ever apartment, go back to school, or afford to buy an engagement ring for their fiance, that is more rewarding than any accolade we could ever receive. We are changing lives with our products for customers and with our employees as well." Kim also says, "We have been approached by several of the mass retailers, but because we have focused on direct to consumer with our e-commerce platform, and our business has been thriving. Our goals now are to keep growing and to keep people safe and supported. Luckily, we haven't had anyone contract COVID-19, and we hope to keep it that way as well." So shout out to Kim and Tim Lewis. They're some of the smartest entrepreneurs that I personally know and that I personally see operate. So shout out to them and their business, CurlMix, located on the west side of Chicago. The last article comes from the Winston-Salem Chronicle, and it's a community newspaper, and it's talking about Black-owned wine company produces first product. So it's talking about Jacoma Martin and her business, Oak City Bubbly. They recently launched their first product, Blush Crush. Blush Crush is a rosé wine that is packaged in a can, which makes it convenient for travel, beaches, parks, or outdoors without the hassle of corkscrews or wine glasses. Before she started the company, Martin worked in the hospitality industry and initially started a mobile bartending business. Martin and her husband continued to toss around ideas, and after collaborating with business partners, they chose to begin Oak City Bubbly. Martin said in a quote, "We had a connection in North Carolina with a family that has a beautiful vineyard, and they had more capacity to create a rosé. So that is how we got the wine. We had a few product ideas from start to finish." She goes on to say, we are all about buy local and drink local. We are female, minority, Black owned, And there is a push to support Black businesses and local businesses as well. I tell my friends all the time that it's not something you just jump in and do. She's talking about entrepreneurship. I'm very proud that on the front end that I sacrificed. When I say I sacrificed, I mean I was very, very smart about making sure I save my money, and by doing so, it has allowed me to not feel the pressure as much as it relates to growing her business. Lastly, she says, I do come from Winston-Salem, and of course, I don't come from a family with money. So everything that I have done has been from the ground up. No inheritance, no real business connections, no investment partners. So I just hope that when people see the product on the shelf, they understand it's a Black woman who owns this product. Martin plans to expand their wine, has plans to expand their wine selections following the rosé. They plan to have a Chardonnay and a Cabernet, as well as a craft beer as well. So, lastly, she says we definitely want to become a household name, especially in our community. All right. So those are my top 5 favorite articles for today, November 5th, 2020. Please let me know what you think about any of the articles in the comments. Also, let me know what you think about the FCT 5 segment in general. And if you have any comments or improvement suggestions in terms of how to make this segment better. Last but not least, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Financial Juneteenth channel if you'd like to receive more content like the content that we produce with the FJT 5. So on behalf of Financial Juneteenth, my name is Lawrence Watkins. Take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and see you in class soon. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Watkins, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, October 30th, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so our lead story today comes from a site called BizNow, biznow.com. It looks to be a site mainly about real estate development for those who are in the real estate industry, but it's talking about opportunity zones. The title reads, "Big changes could happen to opportunity zones post-election, but more will be needed to address disinvestment." So the article starts off by saying, whether Donald Trump or Joe Biden wins the presidential election next week, commercial real estate can expect the Opportunity Zone program will remain intact but receive some tweaks, experts say. That will likely include some reforms and new reporting requirements no matter what, but which man holds the office could determine if the program grows or shrinks in scope. And they were talking about the first with the Democrats winning, and there's a good chance they could win all 3 houses or all 3 pieces of the House of Representatives, the Senate, and also, of course, the presidency. And if that happens, that could kick off monumentous changes in tax policy, including a big boost to the taxes on capital gains. But instead of fulfilling its stated goal in terms of opportunity zones with helping blighted areas, critics charge that the Opportunity Zone program attracts investment to already affluent areas, sometimes even funding luxury residences and hotels. And that's a big problem because the main purpose of the Opportunity Zone program was to increase investment into areas that have historically lacked investment. But what we see is that often this can be a fuel for gentrification and basically kicking out the poor residents and using these tax incentives that Opportunity Zones provide to really give more money to the rich and be a tax haven in the United States for the rich as well. Develop CEO Steve Glickman, so he's deep into the Opportunity Zone space, and he also helped to craft some of the legislation for opportunity zones. He says that the Biden campaign views opportunity zones as one of the pillars of their economic strategy, especially as it relates to racial equity. There's also, I believe this is Glickman once again giving some of the recommendations, or maybe this is Biden. Excuse me. I think this is Biden's team. In addition to pushing for higher capital gains taxes, the Biden campaign advocates rolling back tax breaks for real estate investors, such as 1031 exchanges, which allow the deferral of capital gains taxes if proceeds from an investment sale are plowed back into another property. So in the Black Business School, we talk a lot about 1031 exchanges. So if you're an investor, that is not such good news for you. But I'm looking forward to just learning a little bit more, to seeing what their strategy and philosophy is behind that type of rollback. U.S. Senator Ron Wyden, the top Democrat on the Senate Committee of Finance, also proposed legislation that would add reporting requirements, strip the OZ designation from affluent census tracts, and prohibit investments in luxury rental properties and similar assets. One last recommendation that keeps coming up over and over again as it relates to opportunity zones. U.S. senators and representatives from both parties want Opportunity Zone funds to start collecting and reporting data on how many jobs OZ investments create in low-income communities, and for the U.S. Treasury to provide granular data on the program's other real-life impacts as well. So this is an excellent article, really talking about opportunity zones. I'm going to give you one last stat that I found to be highly interesting in terms of how much money is going into the opportunity zones. But the rest of the article, please feel free to read on biznow.com. But that stat is, the original estimate was that 100 billion would flow into the zones over 10 years. But after less than 2 years, investors had already committed $75 billion, according to an August progress report by the White House Council of Economic Advisors. So this is a story to really look into. We have different opportunity zones experts that have come through the Financial Juneteenth channel and the Black Financial channel, and we look forward to having more in the near future as well. The next article comes from a student newspaper. The University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill has a paper called The Daily Tar Heel, and this article comes from thedailytarheel.com. You make your own spaces. Black creatives talk about imposter syndrome. And I thought this was an interesting article because no matter if you are a college student or older, deep into your career, many times Black individuals feel this pressure and feel like they are imposters in a, I guess, white-owned type of world. And this article addresses, some of those issues, with individuals, in the 20 to 22-year-old age range. Black creatives at UNC navigate being vulnerable in self-expression and self-realization, as many are susceptible to imposter syndrome, especially when they already feel that they don't have a seat at the table. Imposter syndrome happens when an individual minimizes their own achievements and doubts their skills. The first person that they really talked to about this was Papa Berko. He's a senior studying exercise and sports science and music, but he also has, I believe, a couple of albums, one that may have gotten a little bit of traction locally in North Carolina. But Berko says, the one area I doubt myself at times is really the support. Starting out as a new artist is hard because people really want to focus their energy on mainstream people. No one really would support someone who is starting out until they blow up or get on that mainstream level. He also goes on to say, I thought I wouldn't be as lucrative or as effective, but after the first year, I was really able to grow and advance. I don't have imposter syndrome because I know I belong. I'm not saying that to be cocky, but out of confidence in my ability that God has blessed me with. They also talked to another student. Her name is Liz Howard. She's a student studying dramatic arts. But for her, I think the story was a little bit different in terms of how she feels about imposter syndrome. She says, imposter syndrome is the worst form of self-sabotage. For Howard, her imposter syndrome came from her experiences with tokenism. She said her white counterparts would often say she only received certain roles because she was black. Sometimes you kind of feel like a token, like you're the only one on stage because they wanted diversity. But yeah, so that's interesting because a lot of people I know feel the same way. And as they go deeper and deeper into their careers, you would expect that imposter syndrome would become less, but oftentimes it actually increases. So if you're experiencing imposter syndrome, I would say, that's not the best way to live. I look at everything. I've never really personally asked myself if I belong in a certain place. My philosophy has always been, I'm here now, so what I'm going to do with this opportunity. So if you want to learn more about what students are thinking, please go ahead and read this article in the Daily Tar Heel. The next article that I want to go over, and it's kind of similar, not necessarily imposter syndrome, but being black in white spaces. And this was very surprising of an article. It comes from the Chicago Crusader, which is a black-owned community magazine or newspaper since 1940. So this is in Chicago, Illinois. And the title reads, Nielsen Ratings Black Exec Sues Corporation Charging Discrimination. And the reason this was shocking to me is because last week I covered the Nielsen report on like equity and diversity coming out. I can't remember the exact name. I think it's mentioned in this article right here. And Cheryl Grace, was the person who who authored that. I guess that piece of reporting, and now she's actually suing Nielsen. So Cheryl Grace, the face of the company's annual Black Consumer Report, says Nielsen's public message, "You Matter," falls short inside the company. Cheryl Grace, Nielsen's Senior VP of U.S. Strategic Community Alliances and Consumer Engagement, the founder of the series, has been the company's spokesperson in the company's campaign, or for the company's campaign, particularly the report focused on African American consumers. Nielsen's reliance upon everyday consumers, including multicultural shoppers and viewers, is significant because it is how the company can confidently and successfully sell representative insights to its roster of multi-billion-dollar clients, which includes manufacturers, retailers, broadcasters, and advertisers. But on Wednesday, October 28th, Grace filed a lawsuit in the U.S. District Court, Northern District of Illinois against Nielsen, charging the 97-year-old global company with discrimination. According to Grace's claim, despite numerous efforts over the years to advance beyond a senior VP role, which she's held for 13 out of 16 years with the company, Nielsen has failed to promote her in spite of her high performance. Instead, the suit alleges her courageous internal conversations and written correspondence about race and career advancements with a number of companies in the C-suite executives, including its CEO, have led to Grace being marginalized and subjected to a hostile work environment. The lawsuit comes less than a week, like I said, after Nielsen released his 10th version of the popular Black Consumer Report, The Power of the Black Community, from Moment to Movement, as well. And this is interesting also because if you just look at corporate America, you see Black executives, even if they make it to the C-suite or close to the C-suite, they're usually in support type of roles. So that might be, indirectly with like marketing or public relations or events or, in this case, diversity, that type of stuff. But many studies have shown that the most direct path to top level positions, the CEO spot, is if you have run your own profit and loss statement, so P&L. So basically, you were responsible and accountable if a particular business unit made money or not. And Black people, or I guess Black executives, usually aren't given those types of opportunities, which also can hinder their career advancement as well. But there's a quote in here from attorney Janice Mathis, executive director of the National Council of Negro Women. She says Cheryl Grace is a very visible and highly respected Black woman, most widely known in nonprofit and business circles across the nation as the face of Nielsen. She later goes on to say, it raises a troubling and significant issue that the person most responsible for publicizing Nielsen's commitment to inclusion is now herself charging unfair treatment at the hands of the company where she has been employed for 16 years. If Nielsen's biggest cheerleader is not cheering for them anymore, what can the Black community and women's group expect from Nielsen? So that's a excellent question. So from a brand perspective, this isn't a good look for Nielsen, but best luck and wishes to Cheryl Grace as she fights her battle with this particular company. The next article today comes from The Guardian, and The Guardian is a UK-based publication. They have some US-based content, but I believe this is actually in the UK as well, this article. So the title reads, there are more Black female entrepreneurs than ever, so why do they struggle to get funding? And this is a topic we cover relatively often within the Black Business School. It starts off talking about Marian Arifina, and she launched, I believe with her sister, Anita Igbune. They launched the Rise NGO Fund to give space and visibility to Black-owned businesses, including yam importers. The article started off talking about yam importers and how, if you're Black in the UK, that's a big thing. But if you're not, you probably wouldn't know that, that's a really big deal in terms of a growing market. But anyway, back to the article. So space and visibility to Black-owned businesses, suppliers of Black beauty products, and more, which otherwise might not see the light of day. The mainstream, she says, the mainstream won't know we're there if our voices are not in the room. She has another quote in here. She says, we had to be really innovative. The techie bit is something we had to learn in regards to starting her new company. Banks and VCs have been slow to fund Black-owned businesses. They'll ask for proof of concept or might say there's no money in it. So basically there's a lack of diversity in the room, which leads to a lack of missing investment opportunities. I think I was watching a podcast, This Week in Startups, by Jason Calacanis, I believe that's how you say his name. And he was interviewing Arlen Hamilton, who was a Black female VC out of, I believe, Silicon Valley. But she is known for investing in Black-owned businesses and minority businesses around the nation. And she says something similar in terms of, she's getting all the best opportunities because, all the Black entrepreneurs are, I guess, flocking to her and companies like hers for investment, these really great ideas in helping to give them a start and getting much higher ROIs than what other companies in the mainstream are getting because they're all fighting for the same types of companies. And this article is really talking about that at the core. Women of color are among the fastest growing groups of entrepreneurs, research from the US shows. They faced a double whammy of sexism and prejudice, which has prompted them to go at it alone. Annette Joseph, a tech advocate who founded Diverse and Equal, so that's what she mentioned, her quote's coming up next. So her quote is, I meet so many people who have said it, who have had it said to them, you're only here because you're Black. Billions have been spent on diversity, but the glass ceiling is still much lower. Career progression isn't transparent, and you just don't get the opportunities. I hear that everywhere. So there's a few more things in the article, but I think this is a good summary. You should read it and see what they're doing in the UK because many of the same inequities and problems and challenges that they're facing over there, we're facing over here in the United States as well. The last article today comes from Forbes, and it's an interview, and it says, this Black female-led coalition wants to double the number of women of color in tech. It's talking about DeWanna Franklin, and she is the CEO of Reboot Representation. So Tech Coalition Reboot Representation is working to close the gap for underrepresented women of color in tech with a goal of doubling the number of women from underrepresented groups who receive computing degrees by 2025. There's a quote in here. She says, "I am a Black woman in tech and have had a long journey through struggles and battles to rise in the tech industry. We see this moment as an opportunity to build equity. This is the time for progress to be made. This is an opportunity for women of color who may not have the opportunity to enter into tech spaces otherwise." Through its Black Females Moving Forward in Computing program, in partnership with the United Negro College Fund, Reboot Representation is offering Black women in tech professional development, mentorship, and scholarships. The program is accepting applications until October 30th, which is actually today. So if this is something that you're interested in, please head to their website and apply. But you can check out the full interview below. Just wanted to share this piece of news with you as well. So that's about it. Those are my top 5 most interesting articles for today, October 30th, 2020. Before you get out of here, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to Financial Juneteenth if you would like to receive more stories like the stories that I've been delivering today with the FJT5 segment. Also, let me know how I'm doing. How do you like the FJT5? And is this something that you would like for us to continue on producing for the future as well? But on behalf of the Financial Juneteenth channel, my name is Lawrence Watkins. You all take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and see you in class soon. Bye-bye. Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Watkins, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 2nd, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the first article today comes from USA Today, and the title states, "Fair housing groups sue Redfin with allegations of redlining minority communities." Several fair housing organizations accused Redfin of systematic racial discrimination in a lawsuit Thursday, saying the online real estate broker offers fewer services to home buyers and sellers in minority communities, a type of digital redlining that has depressed home values and exacerbated historic injustice in the housing market. In the complaint filed in the U.S. District Court in Seattle, the organization said that that during a 2-year investigation, they documented the effect of Redfin's minimum price policy, which requires homes to be listed for a certain prices to reap the benefits of Redfin's services. The company was vastly less likely to offer realtor services, professional photos, virtual tours, online promotion, or commission rebates for homes listed in overwhelmingly minority neighborhoods than it was in overwhelmingly white ones, the investigation found. Redfin's policies and practices operate as a discriminatory stranglehold on the communities of color, often the very communities that have been battered by a century of residential segregation, systemic racism, and disinvestment, the lawsuit said. Now, in Redfin's defense, CEO Glenn Kelman said that or insisted that the company had not violated the Federal Housing Act, which clearly supports a business decision to set the customers in areas it serves based on legitimate business reasons such as price. So later on, he has another quote here, the CEO Kelman. "Our long-term commitment is to serve every person seeking a home in every community profitably. The challenge is that we don't know how to sell the lowest priced homes while paying our agents and other staff a living wage with health insurance and other benefits. This is why Redfin agents aren't always in low priced neighborhoods." So basically the law or Kelman stating it's just not profitable to operate in those areas. So we're not going to lose money by trying to service an area that really doesn't have very much potential for growth for our underlying businesses. The lawsuit also alleged that Redfin sometimes failed to provide services even when a home's price topped the minimum. That was much more common in predominantly minority neighborhoods, including Chicago South Side, the organization said. It gave some stats to support this from many different cities. So Chicago, I see one from Kansas City. I think I saw Louisville, Kentucky here a little earlier as well. Baltimore, Baltimore too. Lisa Rice also chimed in. She's the president and CEO of the National Fair Housing Alliance. To end the article, she states, "We have decades and decades and decades of discriminatory practices in the real estate field," she said. "Real estate agents are some of the most well-trained professionals in the industry. They know what redlining is." So I'm looking forward to seeing how this lawsuit progresses. It's good to see that there are people supporting African Americans and other ethnic minorities within the court system. And hopefully this lawsuit has a positive result to get Redfin to change its policies. The next article is actually on the opposite side of the political spectrum. So Redfin was there because it wanted to help the African American community and other minority communities as it relates to housing discrimination. This article is from TechCrunch, and it was posted on Friday. Uber Eats faces discrimination allegations over free delivery from Black-owned restaurants. Uber says it has received more than 8,500 demands for arbitration as a result of it ditching delivery fees for some Black-owned restaurants via Uber Eats. Uber Eats said it wanted to make it easier for customers to support Black-owned businesses in the United States and Canada. To qualify, the restaurant must be a small or medium-sized business and therefore not part of a franchise. In contrast, delivery fees are still in place for other restaurants. In one of these claims of the 8,500 viewed by TechCrunch, a customer alleges Uber Eats violates the UNRUC Civil Rights Act by charging discriminatory delivery fees based on race of the business owner. That claim seeks $12,000 in damages. Megan Cashley of Uber, she's the spokesperson for Uber. She has a quote that says, "We're proud to support Black-owned businesses with this initiative. As we know, they've disproportionately been impacted by the health crisis. We heard loud and clear from consumers this was a feature they wanted and will continue to make it a priority." To close out the article, it's worth also noting that the representative for the customer listed in the complaint that I showed above is Consovoy McCarthy, whose partners include President Donald Trump lawyer William Konosovoy. I think that's how you say it, Konosovoy, I don't know, and others as well. So this seems to be an indirect attempt by Trump and the Trump administration to attack anything like this that is helping and supporting Black-owned businesses from corporate America. So let's be on the lookout to see how this lawsuit progresses as well. This article came from TechCrunch, and it was released on Friday. The next article, it really is a press release. It's from American Express. It states, American Express announces $1 billion action plan to promote racial, ethnic, and gender equity for colleagues, customers, and communities. So at the beginning, it gives some of the recommendations and things that they're going to be doing. So achieve 100% pay equity for colleagues globally, sets goal to double spending with diverse suppliers and expand access to capital for minority-owned businesses, commits to enhancing diverse representation and equal opportunity at all levels across the company, increases funding and resources allocated to community organizations advancing racial equality and social justice. So the plan includes a series of internal and external initiatives, commitments, and resources supported by $1 billion in investments toward enhancing diverse representation and equal opportunities for its colleagues, customers, and communities. I was going to read this quote from the CEO, but the CEO is, of course, very proud of what they're doing, and they want to have continue their longstanding commitment to fostering an inclusive and welcoming workplace that reflects the diversity of the customers and communities that they serve. There's a similar statement by the VP of the Office of Enterprise Inclusion, Diversity, and Business Engagement as well. But for those wanting to know the tangible things that will be coming out of this initiative, so I mentioned the 100% pay equity. That's a gender thing, and also I guess a race thing as well. Enhancing colleague representation, so increasing the number of Black, African Americans, and Latinx people across the company. For the business owners, here's something to really look into: double spend with diverse suppliers, expand access to capital and financial education, and also evolve its product experiences, marketing, and also services as well. And then they have some philanthropic things that they actually want to do as a part of this initiative also. So great news from American Express. So we thank them for their support, and it's good to see more and more companies putting their money where their collective mouths are and their press releases are as well. The next article comes from the Wall Street Journal, and it states, the headline states, law firm clients demand more Black attorneys. Microsoft, Uber, and US Bancorp are among the companies urging law firms to enlist diverse legal teams. So law firms have spent years promising to hire and promote more Black lawyers. Their corporate clients are now pressuring them to show their results. So companies like Microsoft, Bancorp, US Bancorp, Uber, Intel, and others are asking the law firms they hire to detail how many diverse lawyers they employ and whether those lawyers are assigned to meaningful work. Firms that don't have a good answer might lose out on bonuses or not get hired at all. I didn't highlight this, but I think this is interesting. What gets done gets rewarded, says Shannon Klinger. She's the chief legal officer at Novartis, which is a pharmaceutical company, and they withhold 15% of legal fees if the diversity benchmarks aren't met. Client demand swelled this year, driven by the national debate about race and equity. Lightning struck, said Joel Stern, who leads an association of minority and women-owned law firms. People are calling up saying, show me the Black lawyers, show me the Black firms. About 2%, this is an interesting stat, about 2% of partners at US law firms and less than 5% of attorneys in the lower ranks are Black. Figures that have barely budged for decades, according to the National Association for Law Placement. Also, Black students make up 8% of total enrollment, but they're also more likely to attend lower ranked schools compared to the more prestigious law schools that are out there. Duval Thompson, a partner at Holland and Knight, which is a huge law firm, he says, you'll see the same associate staffed on all great cases and think, why am I not getting these same or those same opportunities? The consistent challenge is attempting to rise through the ranks based on knowledge, experience, and ability, rather than being minimized, diminished, or judged based on the color of our skin. There's one last quote that I wanted to share in here. Let me see. I think that was it. So yeah, there's one last quote from Miss Marsh. So they're talking about Lakeisha Marsh at Ackerman LLP. Many companies don't want to take the risk of hiring people they have never worked with before, Ms. Marsh said, which limits opportunities for up-and-coming lawyers of color. You won't know what you're comfortable with unless you step out and try something different. Yeah, that's the end of the conversation. Actually, no, there was. We should be the first, not last. Yeah, I think that was the last main quote that I wanted to share in this article. But please read this in the Wall Street Journal. If you work in corporate America, these are some of the things that you can advocate for if you work and you have, I guess, a powerful position at these corporations, because people listen to the dollars, and having these bonuses removed from companies that don't hit certain targets, I think it's a good way to put pressure via corporate America as well. The last article, I'm not going to go that deep into, but it's from sourcingjournal.com. And it's a journal basically for like fabrics and materials and supply chains and products and those types of things. But basically where sourcing actually comes from. And footwear experts weigh in. Can the industry kick its diversity problem? I'm not sure if they're trying to make a pun there or not in terms of kicking its diversity problem. But anyway, the Sourcing Journal, and it's less about what I've been seeing specifically about this article. The article basically says, Black people aren't represented in sourcing at many of these major corporations. Things need to change, and things are actually changing. But I'm seeing this in a lot of this same type of article in a lot of different trade publications that are out there. This concept, industry by industry by industry, of the broader racial reckoning that's going on, that was sparked by the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis by the police officer. So yeah, I found this to be interesting. Across the 100 global brands and companies analyzed by the initiative, the Diversity List initiative that they talk about in this article, just 6 have presidents or CEOs of color, an industry-wide problem that Donaldson characterized in August as systemic. But it talks about just the heavy hitters, how although actually what I've noticed in terms of, they're talking in this article about Nike, Timberland, Foot Locker, and others, many of their companies in terms of board seats, as well as in terms of like employees, they actually align pretty well with how the general makeup of the United States is. The challenge I think this article brings up is, yeah, you might have 13 or 15% Black employees, but your customer base might be 70 or 80%, African American. So you should over-index on some of these things as well. But this is an interesting article if you really care about what's going on in the physical world in terms of how things are made, who is being made by, and shipped, and those types of things as well. But check this out. Check this article out in sourcingjournal.com today. So that's about it. Those are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 2nd, 2020. Let me know what you think about any of these articles. Also, let me know what you think about the segment in general. This is something that I think we're going to continue to do, but we always like to hear your comments and feedback regarding the content and the information delivery style of these types of videos. Before you get out of here, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. On behalf of Financial Juneteenth, on behalf of Financial Juneteenth, this is Lawrence Watkins. You take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and see you in class soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm a finance professor, and my training's in the field of financial psychology. And I've always been intrigued with the way we overcome financial mistakes, the way we learn to do things better. And so that's why I created this little space where I call these financial confessions. And I believe that the best way for people to learn and to get better and to have the encouragement to do better is to hear about the mistakes from others. And so what I want to invite you to do on this page, and you can just hit this link below and just sign up. You'll get free stuff from the Black Business School. And then you'll be directed to the page where you can submit your confessional. Is I want you to tell an honest story about a financial mistake that you made, financial choices that you made that maybe could be a little embarrassing, maybe not. Maybe things that you overcame, limitations that you experienced as a child, maybe stuff that you learned that you later on learned was wrong, or maybe something terrible you did. Maybe you declared bankruptcy 3 times, or maybe you invested too much money in a house and it went bad, or maybe you married the wrong person and went broke. Like I think people can benefit from these stories, and that's why I created this platform. So There should be a link somewhere below where you can hit that link, just sign up, get on the list, and that way you can get free stuff from the Black Business School, but then also submit your confession. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the confessions. I'll answer them one by one, do individual videos, and they'll be on financialjuneteenth.tv.com. That's financialjuneteenth.tv.com, and you can go there and actually see the answer. And I'm doing this kind of as a show on Financial Juneteenth. That's a brand that we have that we're trying to, let people know about. And I hope that this helps some people. So your story, your loss will be somebody else's gain. So I respect you for your courage in sharing. So just hit the button below, and it'll all be self-explanatory. So take care. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hi, everyone. This is Lawrence Watkins, and welcome to the Financial Juneteenth 5. These are my 5 favorite articles as it relates to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 3rd, 2020. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so the very first article today, and just as to forewarn you, I took the 5 longest articles ever, and I guess compiled them into one day's worth of content and show. So bear with me, but I found that all five of these articles were very deep and very rich with information as well. But this first article today comes from McKinsey & Company. So McKinsey is the leading, management consulting firm in the nation. And the article is entitled Building Supportive Ecosystems for Black-Owned U.S. Businesses. So this is part article, part research report, I believe, in regards to this subject of ecosystem building for Black entrepreneurs. Healthy Black-owned businesses could be a critical component for closing the United States Black-white wealth gap, which we project will cost the economy $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion per year by 2028. Black business owners have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic-linked economic downturn, partly because they were more likely to already be in a precarious position, including more likely to be located in communities with business environments that are more likely to produce poor business outcomes. Here's the interesting stat. I believe I've talked about this before. About 58% of Black-owned businesses were at risk of financial distress before the pandemic, compared to about 27% of white-owned businesses. The pandemic also contributed to tipping 41% of U.S. Black-owned businesses into closure from February to April 2020. There was an interesting chart in here in terms of Black Americans hold significantly less business equity than their white counterparts, and it shows just the difference between white equity holders, Black equity holders, and also Hispanic. And as of 2019, Black and Hispanic equity holders seem to be neck and neck. In the past, Black business owners were significantly laggards and lagging behind, even that of Hispanic business owners as well. Black-owned businesses also tend to earn lower revenues in most industries and are overrepresented in low-growth, low-revenue industries such as food service and accommodations. If existing Black-owned businesses reach the same average revenue as their white-owned industry counterparts, the result would be an additional $200 billion in recurring direct revenues, which could equal about $190 billion in additional GDP, or roughly 1% increase in 2017 GDP numbers. And that was excluding also publicly held companies. So they were just talking about private, white-owned businesses versus private Black-owned businesses as well. But it goes back to a silver lining. So a silver lining of COVID-19 and the racially charged violence of 2020 may end up being that some large companies have now launched programs to support Black-owned businesses. A major social media company dedicated $40 million in grants to support Black-owned businesses with 50 or fewer employees. A financial services firm pledged $1.15 billion, including $350 million in procurement spending on Black-owned businesses to close the racial wealth gap. So if you have a Black-owned business, or you are thinking about starting a business, this might be a great time for you to do so. If you especially have a good business-to-business idea, or you have something to sell to these large corporations who are now allocating more money to Black-owned businesses. This next section talks about the barriers to business building for Black entrepreneurs. Throughout the business building process, Black business owners face economic, market, socio-cultural, and institutional barriers, which are all linked to racial discrimination in the United States. Economic barriers relate to disempowerment and the cost of low starting levels of capital for individuals, families, and communities. Market barriers result from unaddressed needs, often related to challenges of access to capital, expertise, and service. Sociocultural barriers encompass the biased and exclusionary ways in which Black entrepreneurs are more likely to be blocked from gaining social capital, such as helpful relationships that make up business networks. And finally, institutional barriers are supported by the systems in which Black-owned businesses operate and include factors such as basic as their locations. Excuse me. So to repeat those. This report talks about 4 different barriers. So economic barriers, market barriers, social cultural barriers, and also institutional barriers as well. Let's see, what's there? I think there might have been a couple of different additional quotes in here. Yeah, there we go. They talk about interventions here. So insufficient access to capital, knowledge, and support. This is more of a policy recommendation. Ultimately leaves many Black entrepreneurs less economically mobile and limits the potential of entrepreneurship to grow wealth for Black families and communities. Interventions to tackle these barriers will require public, private, and social sector stakeholders to evaluate current business ecosystems and rebuild them to be equitable and more supportive of Black business owners. And then it talks about implement policies and procedures for equitable outcomes. Policymakers, industry groups, affinity groups, and coalitions of stakeholders could enforce laws and policies aimed at preventing inequitable processes and outcomes as well. And then last but not least, enable equitable access to capital. To overcome economic barriers, Black-owned SMBs need direct investment in kind, equity contributions, including grants, subsidies, loans, and revenue, and participation agreements as well. So that's enough about this article today, but I found it to be very, like I said, long, but that's good. That's okay, but insightful as well. So if you want to read this full article, please make sure you head over to McKinsey.com. And the article is entitled Building Supportive Ecosystems for Black-Owned U.S. Businesses. The next article comes from Forbes, so Forbes.com. Survey exposes gaps in Black ownership of life insurance. So Judy Hopkins had quite a bit to say about this particular issue. She's the head of legal at Haven Life, which I believe is an insurance company. Today, Blacks also see life insurance as a way to pass on generational wealth. A new survey from Haven Life shows that 22% of Blacks value life insurance as a way to pass along generational wealth, compared to only 8% of white respondents. Judy is quoted by, saying in the article, "Remember, when you think about Black communities, it is well documented that they have been deliberately discriminated against for centuries regarding all sorts of access points for accruing generational wealth, from housing discrimination to the GI Bill to limiting education opportunities. This lack of opportunity compounds over time, and this could be why many studies have shown that Black individuals tend to view or purchase life insurance as a means to build generational wealth than compared to other races who have no other reasons for purchasing life insurance. So they're not really looking to build generational wealth, other groups of individuals. They're really just looking to pay death benefits and any types of outstanding debts that a person may owe once they die. But if we keep going a little bit further, another point the article makes is further accentuating the differences The survey says 37% of Black Americans believe the purpose of life insurance is to shield their families from unpaid debt, compared with 64% of white Americans. Overall, burial cost, and final expenses rank as the top reason that Americans own life insurance, with transferring wealth as number two, according to data released in 2020 by industry-funded groups like LIMRA and also Life Happens. The article touches on the price of coverage. A study released in June by LIMRA and Life Happens indicated that Americans consistently overestimate the cost of life insurance. Along those lines, Haven Life survey found that Black Americans without life insurance thought the cost of coverage was 30% higher than white Americans without life without life insurance did. So basically, Black Americans thought the price was 30% higher than white, and the sample size was those individuals who did not currently own life insurance. But it's interesting that despite any of the concerns or confusion about the cost, 8 in 10 of the Black Americans surveyed by Haven Life reported having life insurance individually or through work, compared to 7 in 10 white Americans as well. And finally, the article talks about the things that you need to assess if you are trying to determine how much coverage you actually need. So add up your it gives 3 steps: add up financial obligations you want to cover, subtract assets that your family could use for those expenses, such as savings and existing life insurance, and the difference is the life insurance that you actually need. So this article came from Forbes, and I believe it was released yesterday, so yesterday morning. The next article today comes from Inside Philanthropy. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Okay. It says why Bloomberg is investing in Black doctors. And this article is talking about Mike Bloomberg and his recent investments to some Black medical schools. I'm going to need to zoom out so I can read this a little bit better. Bloomberg Philanthropies recently made the gifts totaling $100 million to Charles Drew University of Science and Medicine, Howard University College of Medicine, Meharry Medical College, and Morehouse School of Medicine. The immediate goal of this cash infusion is to ease students' debt, but the larger long-term goal is more sweeping and ambitious: to increase the number of Black doctors in the U.S. and the overall health and prosperity of Black Americans. The donation to historically Black medical schools is the first large investment by Bloomberg Philanthropies in its new Greenwood initiative. Of course, it's named after the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. The foundation created it to boost Black American families' generational wealth and counter systemic underinvestment in Black communities. But Bloomberg is the first and largest philanthropy to focus specifically on historically Black medical schools since the killing of George Floyd as well. There's a stat in here. In 2018, Black people died at a higher age-adjusted rates than white people from 9 of the top 15 causes of death, according to the New York Times. Black newborns are also 3 times as likely to die as white newborns. COVID has hit African-American communities particularly hard. Black people are 3 times more likely to contract the coronavirus as white people and twice as likely to die of COVID-19. Statistics also demonstrate that even though only 5% of American doctors are Black, they can make a tremendous difference. Research shows, for example, that Black men are far more likely to get preventative care when under the care of a Black doctor. The article then goes on to talk about the links between health and wealth. The need for more Black doctors the need for more Black doctors tied into an issue Mike Bloomberg raised on the campaign trail during the Democratic primary: the tremendous deficit in Black generational wealth. But the health status of Black people plays a role. Our higher mortality rate and shorter lifespans make it hard for Black families to secure wealth and transfer it to their heirs. I believe that was a quote by Garnisha Izendario, who is with the Greenwood Initiative as well. And last but not least, it talked a little bit about student debt and how student debt for medical professionals, for doctors, can be up to the median amount is $200,000. So $200,000 is the median student debt to become a doctor. And that discourages a lot of Black people from actually applying to medical school. This gift, though, will allow us, so the Greenwood Initiative, to provide scholarships of up to $100,000 of medical students currently enrolled in receiving financial aid over the next 4 years as well. So that's a little bit about the article, or about this initiative. So congrats and thanks to the Bloomberg Initiative for investing in this type of philanthropy. The next article, you know what, I'm going to save that one for last. The next article that I want to talk about it comes from the Brookings Institute, which is a liberal think tank, I would say. And it's talking about navigating race and injustice in America's middle class. So the article states, so first, their definition of the middle class is individuals in the middle 60% of household income distribution, with annual household incomes between $40,000 and $154,000. And if you look at that particular group, about 59% of the middle class is white, 12% is Black, 18% is Hispanic, and 6% is Asian. So in a Brookings study, so this was more of a qualitative study, and they were worried, or they were focusing on, I guess, focus groups and personal interviews with a broad range of middle-class Americans. And they also stratified them to make sure that no one group felt uncomfortable with, actually sharing their thoughts. So if I read that correctly, they were kind of, having, the white people talk amongst white people, the Black people talk amongst Black people, and so on and so forth, so they can get to more truth into the answers that they actually talk about. So for Black and Hispanic middle class individuals that were in the group, many said they experienced much disrespect and discrimination in the workplace that was very prevalent. Black women described how they had to restrain their emotions and opinions out of fear of retaliation or conflict, while also working harder to be given a fair chance. As Patricia, a Black woman who works in IT, describes, "I got to work harder. I have to work hard. I have to bust my kneecaps and ankles just for somebody to give me a chance. I have to not respond the way someone would expect for me to respond, so that they can respect me. Nobody respects women, and especially Black women." So that was the thoughts from a Black woman working in the IT space. Black and Hispanic individuals attested to racism in their everyday lives, whether stereotyping by their coworkers, discrimination in higher education, or racial profiling in the criminal justice system. This is a quote by, I believe, a Black man, or let me see. One man tied crime to economic inequality and racism, explaining. So I don't know if this person was Black or white. Given his quote, I assume it was a Black man, but let's just see here. "Just because I can't get a job, the bills don't stop coming. I can't get a job, my child's stomach is not going to stop rumbling." Another man chimed in, "It's more profitable to keep us locked up and to keep this system rolling because you're rented out as free labor. You're rented out for-profit prisons, and there is a quota the police and system has to keep those facilities rented. My biggest thing is to keep my children out of their facilities." That was a very powerful quote. Leslie, a white woman from Las Vegas, though, she sees America very differently. So it states here, "For some of the white people we spoke with, we heard anger towards perceived, quote unquote, quota filling, hiring practice, or attacks from the left. Some white participants resented being put into a racial category at all, while others feared they were on their way to becoming a minority in America." Leslie, a white woman from Las Vegas, stated, "The culture has definitely shifted, because in the 80s, I think being a white working American woman, a lot of people strive for that. And now we are definitely the minority. I feel like we're the minority and we're discriminated against, especially in the workplace as well." So she has, of course, a different feeling in regards to America. and what discrimination actually looks like, and what it is. But if you want to read more about this article, head over to the Brookings Institute, so brookings.edu. And the article is entitled "Navigating Race and Injustice in America's Middle Class." The last article that I want to go into today comes from Jacobin magazine. I think that's how you pronounce it. I used to call it Jacobin or something like that, but then I keep hearing it pronounced as Jacobin. But it's actually more on the left, more of a socialist type of publication. And I wanted to include this into the conversation about wealth today because a lot of my articles come from mainstream types of publications that really have a strong business focus, but this focus is a little bit different as it relates to wealth and finance. So the article is entitled "A Liberal Moral Reckoning Can't Solve the Problems That Plague Black Americans." If we view the problems of poverty, healthcare, and criminal justice through a lens that filters out the political economic underpinnings of these injustices, informed by the language of moral reckoning, we may just end up with modest reforms at best and symbolic gestures at worst, when what we need is fundamental structural change. So they're all about changing the system from just a fundamental type of standpoint. One of the key theses was what I just mentioned, but to add on to that, although a Joe Biden victory would mean that working people will surely lose less ground than under a second Trump term, they are unlikely to make any substance gains either, hobbled by the commitment of the Democrats to neoliberalism, not to mention Trump's 3 U.S. Supreme Court judges appointed and more than 200 federal court appointments as well. Let's see what else that I found important here. So deflecting class politics. So the article states, if prior to summer 2020, the impact of Bernie Sanders on the Democratic discourse was cause for optimism, the efficacy with which centrist Democrats, so this is about centrist Democrats, centrist Democratic candidates Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden used identity politics to dispatch Sanders was cause for alarm. Attacking Sanders from the right via rhetorical left identity politic frameworks, centrist Democrats and even some progressives identified his platform as anachrostic class agenda that deflected attention from white racism and its consequences for Black. Sometimes I feel like I'm not smart enough to be reading Jacobin magazine, but basically what this is stating is, people on the left were getting a lot of hate from people in the center in regards to what they could and could not do, if elected president or congressman or whatever it might be, and how the progressive left's ideas were, actually bad for the country, that type of thing as well. But anyway, I found this article to be extremely interesting. If you want to hear what the left is thinking and socialist as it relates to what the world needs to be doing and what the United States needs to be doing economically. And this affects, Black individuals as well. They go on to talk quite a bit about, Ta-Nehisi Coates in his case for reparations, how it was kind of like soft and he wasn't really that demanding. And he was appealing to his centrist, Democratic, friends in terms of the piece as well. But you should read this article. It's long, like I said, but it's by Tori F. Reed. I think you'll get a lot of good things out of it. But that's it for today. I know this was a long one, so I apologize for that. But these were 5 really in-depth articles related to Black finance, wealth, and business for today, November 3rd. Please let me know what you think about all of the topics that were covered today. Also, let me know what you think about the FJT5 segment in general, and if this is something that you would like for us to continue on in the future. Before you get out of here, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Financial Juneteenth channel. And on behalf of Financial Juneteenth, my name is Lawrence Watkins. You all take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye. Today's video is brought to you by the Black Business School. At the Black Business School, we don't help you just climb the corporate ladder, we help you build your own as well. We provide a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at an affordable price. So no matter if you want additional freedom in your day-to-day life, you would like to leave a legacy of generational wealth behind to your family and friends, or you just want additional security and stability going into your golden years of retirement, the Black Business School has courses and offerings for you. So head over to theblackbusinessschool.com to learn more. Take care and